you don't need a soft life, you are having an identity crisis. I just want to lead with that. And that may actually be the title. Right now, the running title is Performative Womanhood online, because I recently discovered that Nara Smith is 23 years old. She's a decade younger than me. And no shade to Nara, I think she's built an incredible platform. I just, like, my jaw hit the floor when I discovered that. At 23, I was like worried about finals and like shotgunning Four Locos, okay? I was not spatchcocking chickens with like, you know, a toddler and a newborn and my husband in a high rise somewhere. You know what I mean? And this is not to say that like trad wife content is the problem. By the way, she's not even a trad wife. She works. Okay. Anyway, let that go. But we're talking about imagery here, right? And that's not to say that trad wife is the problem or soft life is the problem or, you know, all of this imagery that we're seeing now where people are taking a more conservative turn in terms of what they look like. You know, the clean girl aesthetic and matchy neutrals and neutral homes and neutral Christmas trees and fucking sad beige babies with beige ass nurseries. Like, we're seeing a turn towards the more conservative, not just politically, but also in our lifestyle. And I want to remind you that lifestyle also is representative of your politics. Okay. When I'm saying this, I want to make you aware, in case you're not already aware, right? There has been a femininity push, a, you know, drive away from the modern woman, working woman push more towards the, don't you want to have a soft life and, you know, soft life this and soft life that. And I just want to remind you that everything is cyclical, right? Just like you see styles come in and out, just like the girlies are wearing Y2K, low rise jeans and want to wear like sparkly white glitter on their eyelids again. This is cyclical in nature with culture as well. We are seeing once again a push towards the more conservative right after we just went through, you know, a life-changing event for all of us, which was, of course, the pandemic in 2020. Not only were a lot of us faced with our mortality for the very first time, I think a lot of us also, for the first time, were seeing in real time how catastrophic a health crisis on this scale can be. I would like to say, I feel like the veil was kind of pulled back a bit and we got to see how bullshit some of these corporations really are. We can work from home. We can work efficiently from home. We were able to see how non-functional and problematic our government was because we were not, you know, tied into the wheel of get in the car, you know, get dressed, get in the car, drive to work, do your whole commute, work at, you know, go ahead and do your 8-hour shift, then get back in the car, then do your commute back home, then figure out what to eat for dinner. Then you can sit down and scroll. You know, we were home a lot more. We were a little bit more plugged in. We had the emergence and like the huge jump off of TikTok, right? Where we're seeing people talk about and show what they're doing in their daily life in real time, talk about COVID in real time, their experiences with long COVID. And, you know, I think a lot of us really opened our eyes to the fact that, like, okay, you guys are giving, you know, X amount of extra money in stimulus checks and in unemployment and, you know, you're paying a little bit more in unemployment than you were before to the extent that people were able to actually afford their groceries despite being unemployed. Maybe we do want universal basic income. Maybe we do want universal health care. And if not universal basic income, I think there was definitely people awakening to, wow, my job pays me literally shit, that I'm making so much more on unemployment that I'm able to like eat and be comfortable, right? Because a lot of people lost their jobs, understandably, because of the pandemic. And I hear a lot of people talking about how they feel like people don't want to work anymore. Well, that part of the unemployment is over. It's been over for a while now. So people aren't, you know, getting tons of money on unemployment as it stands. But I think that awakened people to, I'm getting paid pennies. And then after the pandemic, we're kind of sprung into this new, almost immediately, this era of inflation where groceries are so ridiculously overpriced. You know, people are having trouble just affording their basic day-to-day, their week-to-week. I've heard a lot of people talking about how this Christmas doesn't feel Christmassy, and it's because people are struggling. People are really having a hard time. And this always happens on the heels of something like this, is that we want to find comfort in what may be and what honestly truly is the fallacy of the 50s, 60s housewife, right? And that's what this content is, effectively. It's like a big, warm, cozy hug, okay? It feels so great. It feels like you're just so at home and at ease and not a care in the world and not thinking about bills or how gas prices are skyrocketing. You're just going to make buttermilk biscuits from scratch and your cute little frilly apron, and your kids are going to play quietly and no one's screaming and the house isn't a mess and you're in like this really beautiful haute couture. Is it haute couture? Whatever. I'm not the target audience for that. You're in this very expensive dress, right? And everything is great and grand, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful aesthetic. I want to remind you that it's content, and someone has to look at this content and go back and edit it, and they are fully aware of the way that you will perceive it. That is the point. And this is not, I'm not dogpiling on Nara. I love her content. I also recently discovered that this is what the streets are saying, that her and Lucky voted for Trump, or that they're Trump supporters. I guess Lucky had some reposts. Lucky is her husband, by the way. Okay. I don't have any space to talk about anybody's name, okay? Because, bitch, my name is Champagne. Okay. So, anyway, I guess there were some reposts that were like Trumpy, Trumper type vibes. He was liking some things, and people were like, oh, they're Trump supporters? Bitch, what do you think? Duh. Duh. Excuse me. I'm sorry, my SoCal people, Pat calls it Valley Girl. I am offended by that term, actually, because I'm not from the Valley, but I can see where that comes from. But I'm going to get off Nara because it's not about her. Her content, I feel like, is just the best example that I can give you. And she's someone who's more notable, that I feel like most people will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say Nara Smith or like Nara Smith, right? I feel like most people know what I'm talking about, as opposed to any other creator that I try to give you an example of. Okay. I feel like the problem that we're having online consistently, it's something very nefarious, okay? Something very nefarious is happening online. And honestly, it continues to happen because we're not learning our lessons. And it may just be exactly what our parents said. It's that damn phone, okay? You're scrolling so much that you forget to disassociate from the people you're watching. What do you mean by that? What I mean by that is you're watching Nara. Sorry, girl. I'm sorry, Nara. Okay, this is just an example. You're watching Nara make this delicious meal from scratch, and you are not thinking to yourself, I want to cook that meal. You're thinking to yourself, I want to have her life. And I already know right now some of you are like, you're not talking about me, girl. I don't want their life. I don't want anybody's life. I want to remind you to just check in with yourself, okay? If I'm not talking about you, I'm not talking about you, okay? Only hit dogs will holler, okay? Amen. So what I'm saying, though, is I think after so long of scrolling, we forget that we are watching things that are curated for us. Because no matter what, a creator has to go in and edit this content to look the way that they want it to be presented to you. And I think that we are falling into a habit of performative womanhood in these spaces. We are going back to the 50s and 60s housewife propaganda, which I will remind you was developed intentionally to combat like evil communism, right, during that time. And I think that that is indicative of what we're experiencing economically and politically right now in the United States specifically. This feeling of pressure surrounding inflation and prices and, pressure in terms of healthcare, right? A lot of people are having a really hard time. I'm not going to talk about the United Healthcare CEO on this podcast, but here's the nod to it right now, okay? We're seeing this start to bubble up and come to a head. The United Healthcare CEO, I'm actually going to be posting a Get Ready With Me. That's going to go on the Get Ready With Me this week. I will let you guys know. If you're following me on Instagram or on TikTok, you will see. I'll post when that's going up. That's going to be a YouTube video where I'm just going to be going over hot topics from the past week, because this past week was a fucking doozy, bitch. Oh my God. But we're starting to see that kind of bubble over. It's like almost like we are in a pressure cooker right now, and everything that's going in, it's just causing so much frustration, and people are fed up, and there's either you're going to combust or you are going to relent to escapism, right? The escapism is the doom scroll, the imagining yourself living this soft life where, you know, you don't have to worry about these things and you can just wear your beautiful gowns. And, you know, the explosive is what we're seeing with people who are, you know, wanting to organize and, you know, activism online, and, you know, what we're seeing on TikTok, which I would theorize, I would speculate, I would conspiracize, that's not a word, whatever, my conspiracy theories of which really I feel like are sentiments that most people hold, is one of the reasons why our government wants to do away with TikTok, right? Because we are organizing, and not only organizing, but they cannot control the narrative of the information that's being given to American citizens. And that's something that they flat out stated. We can't control it. We want to be able to control it. We don't like that we can't control it. Okay. And I think, like I said, there's kind of like on one end, we have this desire to pretend like everything's fine, which is like that performative aspect. And then on the other hand, we have this pushback to kind of be explosive and say, we need to crumble this entire structure and what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to get off of that because we're going to get into the real topic, not even real topic, the associated topic. Welcome to Stealing Rants, by the way. This is your first episode. Holy shit, I'm so sorry. There's 2 other episodes that I feel like are a little bit more calm. I'm behind on, these are behind. Some of you were so gracious as to remind me in my Instagram DMs that we were behind on podcast episodes. I'm so sorry. Life has been life and kids have been kidding, and you know, things happen. I'm going to be more consistent with these though, so you can expect them weekly. This is actually an easier piece of content to get out to you guys because I'm just doing my normal rambles. It's just longer, and I rarely edit these. I barely edit them, so it makes it a lot easier to just deliver them to you guys, and you can, for your viewing pleasure, I hope you're folding your Bitch, I almost said folding your coffee. I'm tired. Folding your laundry or drinking your coffee or on your commute or whatever it is that you're doing while you're listening to me. I just want to thank you for tuning in, for spending some of your time with me today, for lending me your ears. So thank you. This is my gratitude that I give you guys in every episode because I really do appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. Okay, so topic of today, that was the lead in into the topic of today, which is I feel like we are creating a generation of pick-me's. Hold on, let me hold your hand when I say this. Okay. As someone who had a mother that was so just desired so much and placed so much emphasis on being coupled, which I believe is a direct result of placing value, or this, like the way that society places value on a woman based on her marital status, right? Do you have a man? Can you keep a man? Are you, you know, this kind of idea of a housewife, which has been around. This is not new, right? Even when we had, you know, the modern woman surge of, you know, women working and this kind of like emphasis on independence for women, there was still very much, can you keep a man? Can you get a man? Can you have it all, right? Because back then in the 90s, it was like, can you have it all? Can you have it all? Can you have the career and the home and the kids and the husband and the, you know, decorated Martha Stewart, but also work your 9 to 5 and climb the corporate ladder? Can you have it all? So it's always been there. And then of course you had like the counterculture of being like, I don't need a man, you know, because that was very prominent. But again, like I said, it's cyclical. The culture is cyclical. We just did it again. We just came back from City Girls, okay? City Girls, I don't need a man to do anything but pay my bills, blah, 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 blah. I'm independent. I'm that bitch. I get money on my own. If you have, I'm so sorry in advance. This is, I do have a sailor's mouth. So if the kiddos are nearby, you may want to pop the earbuds in, the AirPods in. But we just, like I said, we just did it again. We just came from City Girl culture. We just finished that. We just finished that cycle out. And so everything comes full circle. From City Girls, I don't need a man, I just, you know, y'all can be tricks, y'all could just pay my bills, to, well, maybe I need a man, but maybe I'll just have a soft life and cheer 7, sprinkle, sprinkle. And, you know, I'll be married and I won't work. And then, you know what I'm saying? And I think there's imagery around this that is not based in reality. And I think that it can be detrimental to your mental health. And that's what's important to me. Okay. I don't want y'all out here having minty bees because you feel like your life is not soft and you're the only one with a hard life. Bitch, everybody's life is hard. Okay. Everybody's life is hard at some point. You may be going through a rough time right now. And I just want to hold your sticky hand when I say this, because I know, I know you're going through it, because you know what? I've been going through it too. I think, just like everything else, it's cyclical. You may be in your down right now. Please monitor the types of content, the types of things that you're consuming and allowing to enter your subconscious. Okay, I don't mean to get all woo-woo on you right now, but monitor that. Pay attention to what you're consuming when you're in your lows just as much as when you're in your highs. Because that whiplash from, having a high point and everything going right and feeling content and happy with your life to having a down moment, having a down period, and then you pick up your phone and you go to scroll on Instagram or TikTok and there's a couple in fucking matching pajamas making porterhouse steaks in their mansion, and you start crashing out, okay? Because that's the last thing you want to see when you're at your low of low and you got to get all 4 tires changed out and you're late on rent and whatever's happening in your life right now, right? Not even necessarily right now. Like I said, it may not be a down period for you, but that whiplash from high to low, and you're following only accounts that are aspirational, you start feeling real bad about yourself real quick. And this goes for anything, especially as we're heading into the new year and people make all these like resolutions, especially like weight loss. You're following a bunch of Instagram baddies, fitness influencers, and you start your workout journey, January 1st, I'm going to unbig my back, whatever the girls are saying these days. And you have a bad week or a bad month, and you have curated your algorithm to show you only bad bitches with BBLs and fitness influencers with etched on abs. And you go log in and start feeling bad about yourself, your mental tenacity and resilience will start deteriorating, because the only content you're viewing is aspirational content. Not that there's anything wrong with aspirational content, but if you're going to only view aspirational content, make sure that you are detaching emotionally from it. Wow, that's beautiful. I would love to have her. I would love to have her butt. I would love to have BBL allegations. I need to hit the squat rack. I love her body. God, I'm so fat. I wasn't able to lose the weight after the kids, and I just keep making bad decisions, and I don't have time to get in the gym. I'm such a piece of shit. See the difference between those two? Got to be careful. It's not your fault either. You have to be careful because it's a slippery slope, and you can get from A to B real quick. So that's my disclaimer right there. That's my gentle advice. I'm gonna let go of your sticky hands and go put on some hand sanitizer. But I just wanted to point that out because I feel like that's something that happens. And I've heard from a lot of my friends that happens too. It starts off with great intentions because you're motivated. When you're motivated, aspirational content is great. When you're in a low, aspirational content will make you spiral. You will crash out at the end of this week because things aren't going right unless you learn to disconnect and be discerning, right? Use your discernment. Know when people are trying to trigger you and rage bait you, okay? And this goes especially for, those fresh and fit, those male-centered podcasts. I think that there has been almost like a perverted, like, dismantling, disfiguration of even the word femininity. I think along that vein, we need to remember that online and real life are two completely different things. Online, I think we are, as women, rewarded for the performance of femininity more than we are the actual actions that people associate with femininity now. Being submissive at work is not going to get you anywhere. Being soft-spoken in your relationships is not going to get your needs met, right? These are like and I'm doing air quotes right now, feminine traits that are being pushed online. You have to be soft-spoken, you have to be in your feminine, you have to be in your submissive, you have to be in your, these are all like, all of these things are meaningless. Alternatively, making more money than your spouse and being outspoken and, standing up for yourself and, demanding that your needs are met. Those things are masculine. How convenient for the other person, right? That if you're operating in your femininity, that they don't have to worry about you demanding things that you need, right? Or, being communicative about when your needs aren't being met, or knowing your worth and your value. And this is not just even in relationships. This is also, like I said, in the workplace. How convenient for you to have a feminine, quote unquote, feminine employee who's soft-spoken and non-combative and, just hopes that you will do the right thing by them and pay them what they're worth. How convenient. How convenient of us to all be so feminine and soft-spoken and non-combative. Amazing. I just think, this, and also it's big business for capitalism as well, for corporations. If we can convince you that you are fat and all your clothes are out of style and you need to wear this and do this and have this so that you can be perceived as feminine and beautiful and delicate so that a partner will pick you, we can make so much money. Imagine how much money we can make if we just convince you that you need all of these things to be feminine. Soft life, buy these pots and pans, bitch, just I think that specifically my generation, if you happen to fall into the millennial generation, I think Gen Z too, probably affected by this. Certain ages in Gen Z. I think what we're really suffering with is an identity crisis. And it's so hard to find yourself when you are inundated at all times with different ideals. Because the natural inclination is to compare yourself. It's just natural. I say that to say, I think that sometimes we don't realize that the thing that we want in the soft life isn't the things, but what they represent, which is a sense of contentment and peace and calm. You don't want, the cookware set and the very expensive gown and the perfectly coiffed hairstyle and perfect makeup. You want the peacefulness. You want time. I think what a lot of us want and don't realize that we want is time. I wish I had the time. I wish I had so little stress and things to worry about. I wish that my job was not as stressful and didn't pay me so little. Even if your job is high paying, it's likely that they don't pay you as much as they should be paying you for the amount of work you do. But that's a different topic for a different day. I wish that my job paid me enough that some of these other things that are in my mental load were off my plate so that I could do something like stand in my fucking kitchen and cook for an hour and a half. Do you know what I mean? If that's what you like to do. Or so that I can go write that book I've been thinking about writing. So that I can go, explore. Oh, I've always wanted to learn how to sew. I think we all subconsciously know who we are. I think we're having an identity crisis because we keep being inundated with images of who we should be. And not even necessarily who we should be, right? But if you see it so many times, you start to think it's who you should be. Or maybe, and this is a call out here, maybe it's just easier to replicate what you're seeing as opposed to taking the risk of actually figuring out who you really are and what your interests really are. Because that can feel really risky. And sometimes I think our brains protect us from that by us emulating what we see as opposed to living authentically and living in our truth. That's very difficult. To be the true you, it's really difficult. I think sometimes too that may be why we gravitate towards or we aspire to a lot of the creators we see online. Maybe their content makes you feel like they've got it all figured out. And that's what you actually want, to have it all figured out, to have yourself figured out, to neatly fit yourself into these little boxes. First of all, there are no little boxes. No one fits neatly into any specific description or aesthetic. But also, you'll never find the boxes that you fit in if you keep trying to fit yourself in other people's boxes, bitch. Maybe that's not the lifestyle for you. You'll never know if you don't go try to figure out who you are. And so maybe that's the barrier that we're facing here. Maybe it is that damn phone. I know that's somebody's mom right now somewhere. You always on that damn phone, that's why. And maybe they're right. And speaking of moms, okay, the identity crisis that comes with motherhood and the shift that you experience is like nothing that I have ever felt in my entire life. I've never felt more compelled to be better. And not in like a positive, like be my best self. No, like that I am not doing enough, being enough. That I'm not living up to expectations. Whose fucking expectations? I don't know. But there's nothing like creating and giving life to make you feel like you were the biggest piece of shit. And really it's not the act of, it's not being a mother itself. I think it's, society's restrictions and expectations and stereotypes that we place on mothers. And you have a kid and now, your boobs look different. Your vagina will never be the same again. People expect you to behave one way and abandon things that you love or used to love or used to do. And you really do experience a death. I think motherhood is a different type of grief because you are grieving not only the person you used to be, but maybe even the person that you thought you would be, the mother you thought you would be, or maybe even the person that you eventually, this dream that you really wanted, and maybe it now feels impossible because you're a mom. People don't like to talk about that because it makes them feel bad because you're supposed to love this. And you do love being a mom. To anybody who's listening to this who's not a mother, you do love being a mother. But you also really resent it sometimes because society is not going to let you have it all. Not that way. It's going to be like pulling teeth. And unless you have a lot of help and a really strong network and a really strong village, you're going to have some difficulty identity-wise. It's going to feel like, the death of one identity and a rebirth. And maybe, it just requires adjusting fire, adjusting timelines, right? I never advocate for the abandonment of any of your goals or your dreams, despite being a mom. I just don't believe in it. And don't get me wrong, I would be a hypocrite if I said I've never wanted to quit since having kids. I want to quit regularly. I regularly feel like this is too hard. I'll never, ever, ever reach my dreams because I am trying to prioritize my children's happiness in their childhood. And I'm trying to be a good mom. And I'll never be able to do the things that I want to do because I'm a mom and it's hard. So I would be a hypocrite if I said I'd never had those thoughts, right? But what I do is I give myself an hour or half a day or a day to throw a pity party and be like, it's hard. This is hard. I hate how hard this is. And then the next day get back on track and say, okay, maybe we need to change the timeline. Maybe I can't do this thing this year. Some of you may know, not all of you, but some of you may know, I started my acting journey in 2023. I've always wanted to act. I've always wanted to be an actress. I found a mentor. She's absolutely incredible. If you have ever even thought about acting or you are an actor and are looking just to kind of have a space that you can feel like you can ask questions and kind of talk about the business of acting, I highly recommend following Gabrielle Binloss. She's fantastic. You can find her on my following list on Instagram. Just type in Gabrielle. You should be able to find her. But if you don't remember her name there's no words on the screen, okay? And went through all of that and, even had some auditions. I was auditioning, had my headshots, had my little acting resume. I was taking classes. I was doing all the things. Bam, pregnant with my second baby. And, and I had HG, which is severe morning sickness. And so now, a dream deferred, right? What happens to a dream deferred? And I think it can feel very crippling to feel like you want to be optimistic and say, I can have it all, right? Here we are back at, can you have it all? And feel like life is telling you everybody can have it all but you. And I just want to remind you that's not true. That's just not true. And it may take some reframing and it may take some re-strategizing. But I want to push you and we can push each other together because like I said, I definitely have moments where I want to quit too, and quit pursuing and quit striving. And I remind myself that I won't be happy if I quit. And my kids can't be happy if they don't have a happy mom, right? What does their childhood look like if I am constantly unhappy? And I can tell you what it looks like because I had a mother who was very unhappy with the way that her life turned out. And I think she, instead of working on herself and the things that she wanted with her life, she instead said, I'm going to try to obtain all of the self-love that I should have from a partner. I am going to try to just find somebody who's going to love me and love me the way I need to be loved. But she needed to love herself in that way, because seeking that external validation and that external love was detrimental to her mental health, to her family, to her children's health and life and wellness. Placing that type of value on her ability to be coupled. And I talk about this in my book. It can really, really detour you away from your path in life. Being so male-centered and so coupled to this idea of what you look like from a relationship perspective, from a femininity perspective, from a womanhood, like what type of woman you appear to be to the rest of the world, can really stop you from some greatness that's destined for you. And I think we have to be careful of the way that we allow our desires to manifest, and we make sure that we are working towards things that feel authentic to us, as opposed to the perception of what it looks like. Who cares what it looks like? What does it feel like? Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. I remembered it this time. Somebody DM'd me after the last podcast, and they were like, the word that you were searching for was soapbox. Thank you. So I was like, let me get off my totem pole. Let me get off my pole. Let me get off my whatever, my soapbox about that. I'm very passionate about continuing to follow and chase your dreams. I know it sounds so corny, but somebody has to be the corn dog in the building, and it will be me. I will allow it to be me. Please chase your dreams. Please chase them as hard and fast as you can, because life is so much shorter than we think it is. And to close this out, I'm just going to read directly from my book. I'm just going to read directly from my book because I think that I can't express it any better than I did here. And if you haven't read the book, if you have read the book, thank you so much for buying the book and for reading it. And I love it when you guys send me messages and tell me how you felt about it or how it made you feel, if you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, if you read my book, please leave me a review on Amazon. It helps me out so much. It helps my book become more findable. If you don't have very many reviews, it's hard for your book to pop up in the search. And it also helps it get ranked more so more people can find it. So I appreciate that if you remember to go in and leave me a review. But I'll read from the book now, and then we're going to close on that. On self-worth, she can't keep a man. It's something I think most women have in common. This unshakable fear that we are nothing if we are not coupled, if we are not worthy of marrying. What does it say to society if I'm unmarried at 34? God forbid, a single mother. We are so frequently crippled by desperation to prove that we are not stereotypes that many of us settle. We settle for what we can dress up as love in public while we suffer behind closed doors. But what does this teach us about our value? It teaches us that our worth is equivalent to the number of suitors we have, or our ability to remain coupled despite infidelity and violence done to us. We are not reliable appraisers of our own value. As a result, we pass this duty on to our daughters. Too many little girls are born with the burden of proving themselves worthy. This is not a judgmental journal entry. Hell, I've been there. Far too many times, if I'm being honest. So much so that I resented my mother and her mother's mother for damning me to this fate. This incredible burden of being a woman. This unbearable weight of being a Black woman. What kind of gift is this? I don't have a story about self-worth. You don't need one. You could probably give me a few examples of women in your life that have settled. They're often draped in accolades and degrees, but marry men who don't value education. They bear the children of men who don't help care for them. They perform love in public and conceal Black eyes at home. Or they slave away at corporate jobs for a fraction of what they would achieve if they just believed in themselves. I spent many years agonizing over my mother's choices. Why couldn't she just be happy with me and my sisters once we moved away? Why did she need to have a man? Weren't we enough? Self-worth. I wish someone sat her down and told her how incredibly perfect and whole she was without a partner. That she was not only deserving, but entitled to a full and prosperous life. Oh yes, entitled. It is your right to take up space in this world and to live and breathe in whichever way you'd like. No one told her. So no one told me. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me again this week. I need an outro so bad. What do they do for outros? Like I need like a little do, like some kind of song at the end. I don't know. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, for lending me your ears for 35 minutes and 35 seconds now. And I appreciate you guys, and I love you so much. Without you, there is no me here on this platform. If you guys didn't listen, I don't know if I'd even be creating these. So thank you, and I love you. Bye. See you next week.